So what do you do when you're waiting on parts to get a bike that you've put together with your own hands running and ready to actually turn a wheel? Instead of waiting patiently in the garage for parts to show up, you paint the thing and then you put stickers on it too. So as you can see, the Ducati project is looking a bit more finished, even though it's quite unfinished. So one of my other videos that I posted, I thought I'd put together a quick video on backyard privateer painting hacks, how I've done it over the years. And so I did use the completed rear tail section as a bit of a example, but since then obviously the clear coat has cured in its proper automotive clear coat, and I've ordered in some decals and found some other decals and stickered up the bike. So I thought I'd do a quick walk around, because in addition to the cosmetic stuff, I've done a few mechanical upgrades as well. So as you can see, this is a direct rip off from the style of number that Leon Haslam ran a number of years ago in World Superbike and in British Superbike. I'm not sure he's using the same logo anymore, even if it's allowed under the new regulations. But the story behind the number is that over the years, as I've sort of gone in and out of racing, I started, of course, at the time everyone wanted number 46 because of Valentino Rossi in the late 1990s, and so that got snapped up really quick. And then I was 5, and then 55, and then 65, and then 67. And then I stepped away for a few years, did some actual officiating with the club. And I was at someone's house, and I was looking at this coffee table book over a beer or a glass of wine or something. And I think if you look up your name and your date of birth or something like that, and it just gave out some lucky numbers. So my two lucky numbers were 9 and 1. And I came back to racing the following year. Someone already had number 19. So I flipped it and had number 91, and then looked for some famous racer's logo to rip off, and there you go. I actually have it on my my leathers as well. So that's the good old number 91. So if you've seen my other video, I've kind of copied the general outline of the F1 bikes, but obviously came up with a different color palette, I guess. So instead of green, white, and red, it's light blue, light gray, dark gray, just to be different. And you know, it's a different bike. It's certainly not any attempt at being a restoration or a real copy of the real thing. So I thought, what the heck, I'd paint it the way I wanted to. So yeah, that's how it looks. Love it or hate it, don't care what you think, it's my bike. Finished off fitting it with some Zoots fasteners and some brackets I've had lying around, so it fits nice and sturdy on the bike, which I'm really happy with. Certainly the fairing stay was a bit of a challenge, but I'm also pretty proud with how it turned out. It's got this quick release feature here, and then Zoots fasteners all around. So aside from these things right here, which I might switch to Zoots fasteners later on, it's a pretty sturdy mount. Could have done a better job in some of the cutouts around parts of the engine, but you know, that's might be something I tidy up later on. So got the seat pad fitted. This was a bit of a difficulty to get it to sit right, and obviously I chamfered the side, but this is Chinese seat foam, so maybe not the best, but it was certainly a lot cheaper than the stuff from the States or from Europe, and it does stick. So yeah, so that's my little piston broke guy. Not that I'm a heavy drinker by any means, but if being an English minor, you have to come up with a pun when it comes to the team name. And yeah, sort of an endurance style look here up at the top, and DP brakes, decal, got some help from them in years past, and when I get this on the track, I'll definitely be putting their race pad on here as well. And yeah, so just oh, some, like I said, some mechanical upgrades aside from the aesthetics. I did get the chain mounted. As usual, I've got several chains. You can see it's pulled way back in the swing arm here, and I'm anticipating needing to go up on the rear sprocket and maybe even up on the front sprocket. Currently, it's a 1437, I think, or 39, 36, can't remember. Pretty small gearing, and I've always liked to run the largest sprockets possible, even though they might be a bit heavier and require a longer chain, just less mechanical loss, you know, as the chain turns around a tight corner. But we'll try it out at this level anyway. I did some gearing calculations, and this is equivalent to the gearing on a 600 SS. So the one thing I've heard from some of the Ducati gurus is these air-cooled Ducatis are not meant to be revved. It's all about the torque. So I guess undergear, overgear, or run really short gearing to get the revs high really doesn't accomplish much on a bike who really makes its power peak between 65 and 7,500 RPM. So chains on. I've just got a Clipmaster link for now. Until I get things finalized, I'll hold off before putting on a rivet link. And again, we're not talking about a high horsepower bike, so a Clipmaster is less of a liability on something like this. So anyway, again, not the smoothest turning thing, but the chain is also rubbing on the buffer here. So you know, that's the thing, that's the issue that you run when you run smaller sprockets. The other thing that I had to wait for is a different rear master cylinder. Just these little details to me which make all the difference. But the original master cylinder I had the banjo fitting up here, which would then foul on the line itself, like just the orientation of the master cylinder and how it goes back to the rear. So Ducati also make one with the fitting here, so I'll run a 90-degree banjo back to the rear caliper. So just today, actually, I measured and remeasured and measured again the brake line lengths and the fittings that I needed from Venhill down in the States. So that order's been placed, and hopefully that winds its way up here fairly quickly. I'm not sure if I showed this the last time, but certainly some guys cautioned about running those short crankcase breather hoses with the little filter on the end there. So what I've done is I've found some silicone hose, wound it way back to the end here, and then it exits up underneath the seat on the other side of the battery. I might have to add some sort of baffle around that, depending on how much oil mist comes out. But again, I would be surprised if a significant amount of oil mist makes its way all the way up to the back and you know, exposes itself out the back of the engine there onto the tire. And if it does, well, I'd better do something about it. But for now, I'll leave it. And we're still at the point of waiting on carburetors again. So the good news is I've had this thing running 100 times better than with the Delorto carburetors. And like I said in one of my earlier posts, that might have been more of a electrical issue than a fueling issue. But anyway, they weren't ideal for the situation anyway, I don't think. So I've had this running on the 33 FCRs, which everyone has told me are too small. So I was actually able to sell those to a Ducati enthusiast down in the States, who I believe is going to split them because they were racked carburetors and run them on some like 350 singles or something like that. So they're downdraft carbs, so I think they'll work really good for them. Had that running on the BSTs. But I was able to track down, I guess, the proper carbs. And, you know, proper is a relative term. You know, people would say FCR 39s, FCR 41s, the extended manifolds, short split manifolds, yada, yada, yada. Like, I got to keep this relatively simple, I suppose, and straightforward for servicing. So I've got FCR 41s racked coming in. Seller says they were just rebuilt, which is nice. They also come with some aftermarket fuel screw billet needles that you can turn by hand, because just the way they're oriented, you can't really fit a screwdriver driver up in there anyway. And because these things don't have a choke circuit, having that fuel screw setting correct to make it at least idle half decently would be helpful. So they're coming in from Florida, and they're on their way there. And of course, like every good online purchaser, I check the tracking information on a daily basis. They also come with throttles, cables, which I might use. I might come up with a different solution. But yeah, the buyer says that they've just been rebuilt, and they certainly look nice and clean on the pictures. So they're coming. Just a little shout out to the seller, Black Label Mechanica, as I think is the name of the company. He trades online as used Ducati parts, and I reached out to him, and he said, yeah, I should have a set coming in, and sure enough, he gave me first dibs on them. Again, not cheap. FCRs never are, but he gave it to me for the going rate. So I've kept the BST carb still. The pessimist in me, and I really hope this isn't a problem, but I had to carve out a section of this frame tube, and I didn't just flatten it. I cut it out and then re-welded a plate in there to clear the fueling linkage on the 33s. So in a perfect world, the 41s will fit in there, but of course the 41s are going to be wider, maybe just the bore, but the throttle body itself could be wider. So hopefully it doesn't foul on that anymore. Worst case scenario, and this is what I've been thinking about and keeping me up at night, is that I might have to remove this tube entirely, which is pretty drastic. But then just eyeballing, reorienting the support tube in the opposite way, which is how they've done it on the 900 SS bikes, might be a way to solve that problem. Anyway, fingers crossed. They slide in here. These manifolds are the same, so they'll fit in here. But I just worry that as the carb itself is a 41 versus a 33, the entire housing and body of it is going to be that much larger, and I'll have to do something here again. I certainly can't run without one. And I don't have access to a finite analysis computer program to figure out what the best solution will be. So I'll have to think of something else. Of course, I've got lots of room to redo the tube and bow it out, but that would look kind of ugly. So I'll have to hope and cross my fingers and hope that it fits. So anyway, bit of a delay, I guess, until those come in. Again, I haven't touched the tank yet. I have put the rubber bumpers on here to get a sense of how it could be oriented, but I got to come up with a way that if I'm using just one bolt here and the strap to keep the tank from sliding back and forth significantly. So either I guess welding a piece on the inside of the tank to sort of sit it in between these rails a bit simpler. Or I was also thinking having locating pins in aluminum, welded to the other side of the tank, setting them in, like I put a steel piece here, hole, rubber, donut, like that. And again, not bolting it down, but just having locating pins there, and then this strap securing it down. A lot of the guys did caution me that when it came to aluminum or composite tanks, to be careful about bolting them down too securely. The vibration will cause them to crack and fail. So having a hard point to bolt down here and here, I'm a bit cautious of. So anyway, the tank hasn't been touched yet. I did end up getting some new tank gaskets from Newton Enterprises in the UK. So those should be ready to go. So yeah, just waiting on things to come in. I'm going to be going on holiday, so depending on when things come in, I might be able to test it before or not. Not leaving for a couple of weeks, so I'm thinking the carbs should get here in that amount of time. Cables from Van Hill, probably not. But obviously I want this thing running first before I do anything else. If I do get it running and the carb's oriented, then I think I can just I'll take the fairings off, but trailer the frame and the tank to Brent at Ironcraft with some ideas or sketches, and leave it with him to modify the tank for me, and then that'll be a huge step that the bike can actually move on its own. Oh, one last thing too. I did get some hooks, titanium hooks, for this part of the collector to weld to the stainless steel muffler here. So again, I'll leave that with Brent as well. So the hooks will go on the titanium 2-into-1. He'll have some stainless hooks here and a tension spring, one on each side, and that exhaust will be sorted. So yeah, it's coming along slowly but surely. The other news is that there's a track day coming up in a week, probably a week from now. Depending on the weather forecast, I'll be heading up to good old Gimli Motorsport Park, and I'll probably do a video on. Thought it'd be fun to do a video on how ready to race the KTM Duke 890R is, and video the timeline it takes for me to convert this to track duty. So put on the race number plate, get rid of the signals and all that sort of stuff. Put on the track-oriented wheels with the Dunlop rubber, and that sort of thing. And just as a teaser, if you're watching both videos, I seem to have people who watch the Ducati videos and people who watch the KTM videos and people who watch, very few who watch both. But I did decide after a year to treat myself to a couple upgrades, which I'll go over in detail on a separate video. I did end up getting the cruise control added, which is funny for like a track bike, but this is more than just a track bike. This is the greatest invention known to man. No longer do I have sore wrists. And I also got the tech pack. So now it has up and down quick shifter, the track mode, which I've tried, and it's insane in terms of the acceleration, and launch control, switchable wheelie control, adjustable traction. So that'll be all fun to try on the track. I think I'll put it in track mode and leave the track setting at 9, which is the most intervention, simply because it sure as hell felt quick enough at that setting on the street. So anyway, it's again, if you've watched my other videos, you've seen me rant and rave about how great this bike is, and yeah, that is still my feeling. So look forward to a couple of videos on the KTM coming up. So brand new bike, not so brand new bike, I don't know, it's a nice balance. Anyway, like and subscribe, tell your friends, and I'll keep the updates coming.